we'd even be more successful. The courage, like you go say, the courage to ask the question, because the worst thing they'll say is no. So in my opinion, CMMC is irrelevant. We do now have, like with anything within the government, it takes 5 to 10 years sometimes for a new regulation to actually get its wheels going and get established. The reality of getting a contract from the government is a 3 to 5 year process. I think the more small businesses and the more competition we have, the better we are as a nation. If I was saying anything to anyone who's interested in jumping into this market space, you know, the 3Ds, right? Like drive. You have to have an incredible amount of drive and passion behind what it is that you're bringing to market. You know, if your warfighter's the passion, even, but if your passion is AI and you have some really amazing, AI technology that you think could help the warfighter, come on, let's go. Let's do this.
So before we get too far, how about we introduce you and your company?
Oh, yeah.
For those people who do not know who you are, I don't know who would not know you, but for those people who've not heard your name, who've not met you before, and know all the great things you've done, why don't we go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Jonathan Hard, CEO of HTL Solutions, cybersecurity company. Been in business for 10 years, around 60 people. We do work for a lot of DoD government agencies and some other agencies that are not DoD, but working, all over the world, South Korea, Guam, Germany, Alaska, and in the great United States of America. But still in the reserves, and all my comments that I make here are, I'm going to step back and just make them as a good old United States citizen and not represent the U.S. military, Eric, in any way, form, or fashion. But I appreciate you, asking me back on. This is the first time that you've seen my beautiful face. Last time I was in my truck, doing the podcast. I don't know how long ago that was, man.
So it's interesting. I'll pull it up. I want to say 2019.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because I wasn't in the military then. Yeah,
I want to say 2019. I'll confirm it, but yes, I want to say 2019.
Yeah, at the height of DFAR 7012, before.
There you go.
Before the great CMMC came out.
Yeah, no, I mean, how did you even get involved with CMMC?
Well, it morphed it from, so DFAR 7012, was a requirement that came out in the DFAR that created a cybersecurity baseline for the defense industrial base. Every DoD contractor had to meet those 110 security controls, and then it morphed into CMMC. Whether you love it or hate it, which I'm on the first, I'm on the latter. I really don't think it's a great program. The reason that it's here is because people said that the baseline, the NIST 800-171 and the DFAR 7012, had no teeth. There was no means for the government to punish defense contractors that were not actually meeting those requirements from that regulation. Well, they are now, right? So the DIBCAC, the Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment teams, are now assessing the big firms, Lockheed Martins, Booz Allen Hamiltons, to see if their SPURS scores correct, to see if their all those 110 security controls have been implemented, and making sure that those primes are ensuring that their supply chain is also meeting that requirement. So in my opinion, CMMC is irrelevant. We do now have, like with anything within the government, it takes 5 to 10 years sometimes for a new regulation to actually get its wheels going and get established. And so, at the beginning, 2015 is when the DFAR was put out into the Defense Federal Regulations, DFAR, acquisition requirements, the DFAR, is when it was put out. And in the original version, it only had 51 security controls that came directly from the NIST 853. And then they being the government, deemed that was not enough. And so, since the NIST 853 was for federal information systems, they needed to create one that was for non-federal information systems. And so that's when the NIST 800-171 was created, that had the 110 security controls, that was added as the adequate security requirement for all defense industrial base contractors that dealt with CUI or CUI, controlled unclassified information. And if you dealt with that type of information, then you had to apply the NIST 800-171 to your framework and flow it down to your subcontractors. And if you had some kind of breach or hack you had to report it to the D3I. I think it's DoD Cyber Crime Center. And you had 30 days, I think 30 days to do that. And then they did their own investigation. But like everything, it takes time for that to get going and for an actually audit mechanism to be put into place to put some teeth behind it. But what happened is powers that may be decided that there were no teeth. So the Defense Industrial Base was not doing this quickly enough. Therefore, we're going to create CMMC, which is I won't cuss on this like I did the last time. It is a freak show. It's crazy about how much OCI is involved in it. You have cybersecurity companies popping up out of the woodworks based solely and entirely on doing CMMC assessments and audits.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I don't even know, we might have it on our website, but when we go to trade shows, we don't offer that or advertise that at all. We don't want to be known as we're a CMMC implementation and assessment company. Have we bent the knee to the cybersecurity AB, the board over the regulate? Yes, right. We're a cyber company. We bent the knee and paid the money to be assessed and be a C3PO to go out and assess companies. But that's because we've done over 400 companies under the DFAR 7012, and they hit us up all the time saying, hey, we like the work that you did for us. Are you going to be a C3PO? We want you to come out and audit us because we don't trust anybody else. So it's obviously, there's a capability there and that we want to capitalize on. And so, but I say this to everybody, and I'll say it to you, and I'm not going to change my wording here. My sister, who loves having babies, right? She loves having babies. She could go and pay the money to the Cyber AB, go to their 40-hour class, and be an auditor.
Oof.
And have zero experience in cybersecurity. I mean, it's a joke. To me, it's a joke.
That's interesting. As I go along my Govcon journey, I see more and more things are that way. I did not know this, right? Again, when you're on the outside looking in, you see this world and you see federal contracting and you see all these people and all these three-letter agencies and you go, wow, these people are all important. And then, like you said, then when you dig into it, they said, oh, you just have to go there and get certified and you'll be eligible to do X, Y, Z. Well, so that's actually so it's funny. That's exactly what I say to the young people. So I spoke at a conference last year called Blacks in Technology, and I told them, I said, you guys are already overqualified for the jobs. You don't need any more certificate. I go, the stuff that you're doing, you think anybody in Congress can fathom this stuff? You think anyone running any of these organizations has your level of intellect? The stuff that you're programming and coding, you already surpassed. And I can tell you because my friend has 14 patents, and every time I sent him a government project, he goes, Eric, that's old technology. I said, yeah, but that's what they want. So they're learning the stuff that even we're like teaching them on this new technology, but the government wants the reliable, consistent, the stuff that's proven, so to speak, is what it is, technologies. Yeah. So I'm like, you guys have already surpassed whatever level you think that you're supposed to be at to be able to start supporting some of the programs and platforms that the government has, the systems in place.
But in the acquisition lifecycle for the government is horrible. I mean, like by the time they get a new fighter out, it's old, right? I mean, right. And so that's and we're not the first ones to realize that. I think there's hundreds of thousands of people in our industry that understand that. But how do you change it? Right? You got to change it with policy. You got to change it with different regulations, requirement, changing the whole process, and then it might be not as profitable to other entities if that process is changed. Right. And so those other entities might have deeper pockets. Usually they always do, very deep pockets. And they use their capabilities to keep the status quo because they're making billions with the current way, how everything is being run right now. And then we're seeing our adversaries, and I won't name them, right? But we all know who they are. We're seeing our adversaries, moving much quicker pace because they don't have all this legislative stuff in place, but also maybe focusing on targeting our infrastructure, our defense industrial base contractors, in order to get all the cool R&D stuff that we're spending millions and millions on developing. Then they don't have to develop it. They already have a baseline, and then they figure out how to either defeat it or make it better than what we've already developed. Yeah. So basically, we're doing the R&D for our adversaries right now, right here and right now.
Yeah. And then they take it to like rapid prototyping phase and put it out there. Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So,
Yeah.
tell us, before we go down this rabbit hole, because we can have the we can take this conversation really deep. You know, for the small business listening, based on what you've seen out there, you've been at this now 10 years. You said.
Yeah. 10 years next month. Crazy.
Now, so let's talk because prior to this, I know that you worked at some companies. You worked at some of the big boys, but then also you had some jobs. But one of the issues that I see, how do you served the country, then you came out and you're in the National Guard, right? But I still, from my talks, is I see a lot of people who serve the country are afraid to leave and come back and do what you did.
Yeah. So,
How did you overcome that? Hey, I'm going to stay and continue to serve for 20 years or 30, whatever the case may be, because I'm going to come out and serve, but in a different capacity by bringing my talents, my intellect,
yeah. Yeah.
my skills to support.
So I'll just be frank and upfront. I resigned my commission in the military in 2012 to try to save, my marriage, right? And so
Mm.
that didn't obviously work, but I mean that was the
That was
main
the
reason.
premise. Okay. Okay.
And so from that point, I had already worked for, got back from a deployment in 2008, and then worked at SAIC and some other big companies, and then resigned my commission. And then 2 years down the road, then decided to start a company and serve in that manner. And at all these conferences that I attended to, I met retired general officers, other full bird colonels. They were still in, and they were like, "Well, why'd you get out? You had 12 years in. You need to get back in." And so the longer that I went talking to those individuals, the older I got, and there is a cutoff age of where you're not allowed to get back into the military. And so right before I met that cutoff age, I got some letters of recommendation, and the military accepted me back in 2020. It was one of probably the best moves I've made from a decision-making perspective. But that being said, transitioning military members have so much capability that they can give back in different ways. It just doesn't have to be by serving their country in uniform, right? They know our priorities of our nation and national defense. They know our adversaries already. They know what the priorities are from a weapons development capability. They know so much information that can be applied to our current programs here, and they've already been there, boots on ground, and have experienced firsthand how everything is operating. When I was on deployment last year to CENTCOM, I'm not going to say anything about companies, but while I was a green suit or on that deployment, I saw a lot of things that I was like, we got to change this. We've got to focus more on tactical communications. We've got to get certain things up to a new standard. And there were certain companies over there that were supporting that environment that probably don't need to be there, because I think maybe their focus is on monetary gain and not so much actually serving the country and serving that area that we are investing our money and time in. And time is priceless. That's our most valuable asset, right? If we're going to be, the United States of America is going to put time and effort into CENTCOM, they should want defense industrial based contractors that want to win, that don't really worship the almighty dollar. Yes, I get it. People have to be paid and people have to make money. But once a company is determined that is the number one most important thing for their entity, mission failure, in my opinion. And we've seen that a lot with other entities where, they have to make a profit because, they have to. And then from a green suiter perspective, is that entity's mission now aligning 100% with my mission, which is to make sure all my soldiers come back home and we defeat and engage the enemy on the field of battle and win, right? That's where my questioning kind of goes with entities like that.
It's interesting. I have a saying that the government doesn't get the best people; they get the best people that come to them.
That's a great saying.
I mean, I've just recognized that. So when I try, because I'm always trying to encourage new people to come into the marketplace. As you know, what's happening with the small business decline over the last 2 decades. But they say, Eric, but there's so many people in the marketplace and they're doing all these things and, it's very competitive. And I said, yeah, right. But the more that I speak with people internally, like you said, green suits and people on programs and people that are actually supporting that are employed by the government, they're not always happy with their current providers.
I would say probably 60 to 70%, they're usually not happy.
Yes. And so hearing that, And I go, that means there's room for people that want to come in and deliver excellence. And to your point, want to support and align the mission with the mission of the group. But because you guys are not showing up and you're not participating, you're not saying, hey, I'm existing. And I mean, if you're supporting Amazon, you could support the United States government.
Yeah, but they make the barriers to entry, they make them significant, right? And that's the unfortunate part, because I think, and CMMC is a new barrier, right? If it
Yes,
does
absolutely.
actually become, put into law, it's a significant, costly, heavy, burdened new barrier on small businesses and startups that want to try to get into this space. It's ridiculously costly. It doesn't have to be. There's other solutions out there. Another one is the facilities clearance, right? Getting a facilities clearance for your entity so that you can go out and do work for the government is another barrier to entry. It took us, we started in 2014, and I don't think we had our facilities clearance until 2017 or 2018. And that's because no one in Huntsville would give it to us. We had to go to a Colorado Springs company, and I'll just name them, Apogee Engineering. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Apogee Engineering. It was an 8A company. They're grown out of that program now. They're doing great. But if they hadn't of given us the opportunity, I don't even know if we'd be here right now, right? And so I really appreciate their mentorship and friendship. And how I did that is they wanted to grow in Huntsville, and so I invited them into Huntsville and shared my whole Rolodex with them so that they had, Colesla's info, Torch's info, Intuitive's info, all these different companies' information with their BD people. And they're like, well, what can we do for you? Well, if you could add us to a contract so we could get a facilities clearance, I would forever be in your debt. And I always will be. But that's a huge barrier that the SBA Association should look into, maybe seeing how that they could help small businesses. If I was the SBA, I would want as many small businesses that I could to come into the defense industrial base for that, the innovativeness, just
Yep.
at a minimum perspective.
Right. Right.
So,
No, I agree with you. And they always talk about that's what they want. That's what they say publicly.
of course. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to diss the SBA. The SBA is a
No,
great
no.
organization. Love them all. But I mean, at the same time, like you said, sometimes they might not be in touch with it might take them longer to get in touch with the real 0-day problems. Like a 0-day problem might take, if it's a 0-day problem, it might take them 2 years to actually start hearing about it. Where that problem needed maybe be addressed right then and there, right?
Right.
And maybe they make an open forum and have someone monitoring that for limiting or reducing the time it takes to start looking at resolving 0-day problems, which would be barriers to entry into the DoD market space.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So tell us, what is the process of going through to get a facilities clearance? I've heard, again, people listening to this, we tend to assume a lot of people know these things. For someone listening to this saying, well, what does that take to get a facilities clearance? Can you just share what the process is like?
I will 100% say I'm not an expert in this. And then we have an amazing company, Mac 3 Defense. They do all of our FSO stuff. They're, Kenya McDonald and her husband, they do an amazing job. So if you're ever wanting to get a great FSO or learn this process, hit up Mac 3 Defense. Great people. In fact, you should have her on your show sometime.
Love to have her on my show.
Ton of experience in that perspective. But how I would do it if someone asked me, hey, what's the best way for me to get a facilities clearance is, one, you have to have your own clearance, right? You already have to, you as an individual need to have a clearance because you're going to be a key stakeholder in your company, and all the key stakeholders have to have their own clearances. Okay. That's even before you can get a facilities clearance. Then someone has to sponsor you, someone who already has a prime contract. So for instance, in this case, Apogee Engineering had a prime contract. I can't remember who the government agency was. We'll just say it was the Army. I don't think it was, but we'll just say it was the Army. Well, they brought us on as a specialty surge support capability for cybersecurity services. And what that did, I think the form is a DD 254, if I'm not mistaken, but that form gets filled out by the prime. The prime sends that to DCSA, the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency, and they then kicks off an investigation for your facilities clearance at whatever level that contract's at. If it's at a secret level, then you're going to get a secret facilities clearance. If it's a top secret level, you'll get a top secret facilities clearance. That could take a couple months to get done and get issued. But once you have it, man, There you go. That's a huge barrier out of the way. So that's the high level process. Again, if you want to get in the weeds, hit up Kenya. She can definitely.
Oh, I'd love to. If you can make an introduction, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll take a note of that. Yeah, too easy.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's a process that a lot of people are not too savvy on, and I don't. It's people ask about it, and I can tell you, like I said, I've never gone through the process before, so it's not something I speak on. But high level is good. High level is good. We can stick to high level. Yeah. We get Keenan to get into the weeds of it. So no. So even though you're a C3PAO, right?
Not yet, not officially.
Okay.
So you have to be assessed by the government. That happens at the end of this month. Knock on wood. We will be one eventually. Hopefully, it's at the end of the month. We'll know, but we are being assessed by our great big brother. So
okay, all right. Well, so even though you're headed towards the direction of becoming a C3PAO, you believe there's other ways that we can solve for the CMMC issue.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's already there, in my opinion. So the D4 7012 regulation states you have to have the NIST 800-171, which consists of 110 cybersecurity, both policy and technical security controls implemented into your company's network. If you have controlled unclassified information, if you're, which would be FOUO, for FOUO stuff, non-classified information, but information that's sensitive, right? Once you get enough of it, if you're an adversary, you can see the big picture of what's going on. If you have that type of information, you have to have those security controls already implemented on your network. That's been in place since 2015, and so it's already there. Just leave it alone. The DIBCAC, or the Defense Industrial Base, certificate. I can't remember. Anyways, the government people are coming in and assessing these contractors now.
Right.
It's already. I think you have like 30 something assessors. They're slowly assessing to the current standard per law, and if you're not getting a good score, they write you up. And so that is then pushing down the Northrops and the Lockheeds, all the big companies, to make sure that their supply chain is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for CMMC. And that's going to be a huge, I think you have to be recertified every 3 years or something. So you have to pay, and this is all high level from a payment perspective,
right.
Cost perspective. And this is Jonathan Hard's perspective. But you've got a probably anywhere from $50,000 to $120,000 cost just in implementing the security controls. All right. Then you have to pay a C3PAO to come out and do the assessment. That's probably anywhere from 20 to 40K. And you have to do that part every 3 years. So I mean, like that is, and this is a rough ballpark. My plan is when we become a C3PAO is to do it as costless, efficiently as possible, so that we can run every other greedy C3PAO out there that's just got into it to make money off the backs of the defense industrial base. The great defense industrial base that are making critical components, small businesses for our country, to reap the money off of them. We're going to try to do it. We're going to try to do it for at cost. I mean, maybe a little bit but we're going to go. So, I mean, because it's, in my opinion, it's not about the money. It's about making sure that these small businesses stay in business, continue providing our warfighters the service that our warfighters need to be able to defeat our enemies on the battlefield, and not about trying to suck as much money out of them as we can because a new cybersecurity standard is thrown out there, right? And that's what really gets me going, is when I see all these companies that are popping up everywhere saying, "Oh, how can you do it for $10,000? It's got to be 20 or 30,000 to do that." I mean, like, garbage, trash, get out of the way. Come use us. We'll do it as little as possible. But the way that the whole CMMC ecosystem is set up is just bureaucratic, and it's lethargic. It's already outdated. Right? There's other solutions out there that they could have put in place besides CMMC. And one of them they've already created. It's already in law. Maybe change that just a little bit if there's something in there from a government perspective that you think needs altercation or changing to make it a little more advanced or something. But don't create a whole nother Leviathan leather of bureaucratic is on top of a security or a certification program. What in essence has happened is they've created a new industry. For us to be a C3PAO, a third party assessment, we have to have RPOs. registered, I don't even know what the hell it stands for, but the assessors, the people that do they have to go through and pay the Cyber AB board money to go through their training program. Then they get their little badge. I'm an assessor now. Those assessors have to work under a C3PAO, which would be us. So when we get that C3PAO status, I can't have my amazing cybersecurity engineers who know cyber like the back of their freaking hand go out there and do those assessments. I have to work with the registered agents that have went through the Cyber AB's training program that my sister, who loves having babies, can go, pay $5,000 for and get the pretty little badge. So they might not be really solid cybersecurity engineers or assessors. They might come from totally different industries, but yet they paid the money to the Cyber AB board and they got their badge, so they're bona fide.
Who creates the Cyber AB board?
Katie Arrington helped create that a long time ago. And so you just write that name down and Google everything. You'll see it.
What is it? Yeah. What's the name?
Katie Arrington is one of the, I guess you could say that she's the one who had the dream child of the CMMC, or it's changed its name. I can't even remember what the name used to be, but it is now Cyber AB. But it was something, can't remember what the name of it was. Another person you should interview is Jeff Stutzman. That name.
So I've had Jeff.
You should.
I had Jeff before. Jeff's got some great stories.
Yeah, Jeff's an amazing storyteller. But also the whole CMMC thing, he's got so much more background on it and how it's just, and it's not what's best for small businesses in the defense industrial base. But CMMC, we can beat that a dead horse all day. What I would like to focus on, and whatever the time that we have remaining, is how to help small businesses come in. Come on. I think the more small businesses and the more competition we have, the better we are as a nation, right? And so, the more diversity, more people thinking outside the box. Right. Let's do it. Let's figure out how to bring more companies into the fold. And I've been in business for 10 years. I've seen no less than probably 15 companies fail in this environment because it is so ruthlessly cutthroat. And so if I was saying anything to anyone who's interested in jumping into this market space, the 3Ds, right? Like drive. You have to have an incredible amount of drive and passion behind what it is that you're bringing to market. If your warfighter's the passion, but if your passion is AI and you have some really amazing, AI technology that you think could help the warfighter, come on, let's go. Let's do this. The other one would be determination, like never give up. And that's one thing. In our first year, Eric, I probably briefed, I don't know, like 600 plus companies on H2O solutions, and we didn't have anything. When we started, it was myself and the two other founders. We didn't have any past performance. We had no equity. When I say equity, like no private equity or venture capital, nothing. I went to the bank, and the bank was like, I'd like $100,000 line of credit, because, and he was like, oh, good, yeah, no problem. Do you have any contracts? I'm like, no. Oh, interesting. Well, here's a credit card, and it's got a limit of $3,000 on it. So it's like, okay, my eyes were opened real quick that if you don't already have a contract lined up, if you don't have some kind of product that you're selling, and you're just going into the services market, and you're starting from zero. Literally, I had no contacts, connections, nothing. I knew no one in this space other than I had worked for a PM at some larger entities. That's it. And it was incredibly hard. So the determination, never give up, right? And then the last piece is delivery, right? Delivering whatever you say you're going to do, make sure you do it. Even if you don't do it right the first time, go back and fix it until what you've said you're going to do, the customer and end client is happy with it, because that goes right back to your reputation. And in this industry, reputation is everything. It's your reputation and who you know. That's it. I'm just speaking freely here. It's about connections and who you know, and if they like you, and if you have a good reputation, and success will eventually come. Now, there's other things that help that, right? Social economic, if you're African American or if you're Asian American or whatever, you can do the 8A program. That's a great program that, oh my God, take advantage of it. If you're service disabled, take advantage of that. Hub Zone, take advantage of that. Woman owned. So, I mean, the SBA has come up with these other programs that try to help those small businesses out. But if you have those three attributes, you will eventually be successful.
And
If I
repeat them.
take,
Determination,
yeah. So,
delivering. What was the number one?
yeah. So drive, determination, and delivery, man. That's what I mean. Those three things. And there's other subcategories. Like, for instance, I'm a LinkedIn junkie. So the drive and the drive and determination. In the first couple of years of starting this company, I was on LinkedIn probably more than I spent time with my children. It's probably horrible to say. I mean, like, they're there playing, and I'm there on LinkedIn connecting with people. Yeah, but it's more. I'm a bad father. But
I had a funny joke, by the way, to that point.
Yeah. That's how I got to do so many capability briefs. I connect to a CEO of another company that's already been in business. I would say I'd wait a couple of days, so I wasn't looking like I was spamming anybody. They'd connect, wait a couple of days to message him or her and say, look, my name's Jonathan, just started a new company. We're doing cyber. I'd love to brief you on our capabilities. And 9 times out of 10, they'd usually respond and say, sure, whether it be an in-person or not. And then what I would do, I would research that company, see what kind of opportunities might fit their capability set, go to sam.gov and find some sources sought opportunities, print them out. And when I met with them, I'd say, I don't know if you've seen these yet, and sometimes they had, but just that act of, wow, this person cares. This person who I've never met before cares about my company that's obviously doing much better than, their company. And, right there, that starts that relationship of trust, building trust with that entity. And I would never ask for anything, right? That's, people in certain market spaces are very hesitant to do meetings because they're going to ask to get on a contract, or they're going to ask for work share or whatever. But we never asked for anything, because I'm a believer that if you always go with an opportunity to somebody and you're very humble and you don't ask for anything, if that person's a good person, they'll come back later, maybe not immediately, but later down the road, and they'll say, hey, I saw this opportunity that we're going after, has some cybersecurity capabilities on it. You want to join our team? And so it's been a very successful, I guess, strategic strategy on how to get success from those early on meetings. Maybe not instant success, but long-term success down the road.
I think that was great. That was very technical.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I for a person like myself, that I'm not a cybersecurity guy, how would I, and I want to get into cybersecurity, how would I do that? Like, I've interviewed several people that said, Eric, I'm not a cybersecurity person, even though I run a cybersecurity firm. Yeah. Right? They hire the technical people.
That's right. So, that's a great point. So when we started the company, so I started when I started the company, I was cybersecurity. Right now, a full openness with you, I hire very technically competent cybersecurity engineers.
Right.
I'm the business development guy now, right? I'm the connection guy. I'm the, and that's what a CEO should be. They should not be in the weeds if they want to grow, their company. But at the beginning, when we started the H2O Solutions, there were only very few cybersecurity companies that were in, Huntsville. Centaur was one. They've always been in cybersecurity. There may be one or two, but now, if you go to a USA Symposium, which is the last week in March, right? Every single 400 plus exhibitors will have cybersecurity on their capabilities. Mm. And those companies maybe were not founded by cybersecurity, practitioners. And maybe all the way, their senior leadership knows nothing about cybersecurity. And with the Govcon space, it really boils down to relationships and how well you write a proposal, right? And so we've seen a lot of these companies that maybe started as a logistics company. They're doing logistics, and now they're doing cybersecurity, right? Even those founders might not know anything about cyber. And that's why I say, if you have those 3 Ds, you can succeed in GovCon, whatever you want to do, right? I mean, literally. If someone does want to do cyber, then, I just always tell our future, when I go and talk to high schools and college, on college campuses sometimes, there's 4 things, I think, 4 things you need to be successful in GovCon cybersecurity. And one of those things is, we're seeing sometimes it's being dropped now, but the first one is, a degree, some kind of technical degree, right? a minimum of 2, but even better, 3 years of experience, some type of cybersecurity certification, usually Security Plus at a minimum, right? And the big thing would be a security clearance, right? And so what we try to do is embolden our interns, and we never really, they're interns, but we call them cybersecurity analysts, level 1. And we do that because that helps them get that experience level that they need. Unfortunately, and we see that the government's changed this, but unfortunately, about 5 years ago, we started seeing these entry-level jobs for cybersecurity contracts come out. And the entry level, you had 2 or 3 years experience for entry level. Hell, you gonna get that if you graduate college? You have no experience.
Right.
You are considered entry level, but you can't qualify because the government's saying you have to have 2 or 3 years of experience. Like so what we did is we created our assistance program with these colleges where they would come in and they'd get that at 2 or 3 years experience, and then during that process, if they turned out to be a student that was very aggressive and wanted to meet those 4 criteria, we'd sponsor them for a clearance and start putting them on cleared work. And then by the time they graduated, if we didn't have a job for them per se, that H2L could, put them into a position, they were immediately sucked up by an SAIC, a Jacobs, a Boeing, a Raytheon, because they met all 4 of those hiring criteria for cybersecurity positions. And so, by doing that, we've made a lot of strategic friends in other companies because they got into the door of cybersecurity through H2L Solutions, internship program, or for the lack of a better description, it is an internship program. And we have a big program every summer. Miss Jackie Blue puts it on. She's our senior cybersecurity commercial engineer, but she puts it on, and in the top of the graduating class get offered a full-time internship with H2L Solutions. But those individuals that go through I think it's an 8-week program during the summer, they learn a lot. And that we always preach those four entry points, those 4 items that need to be obtained if you want to be successful at getting plugged into the cybersecurity ecosystem.
I think that, you have a model that you demonstrate works. Why can't we just replicate that model?
So we can. Yeah, we can. I'm not even trying to patent the process, man.
Right.
Take it, government. Somebody take it. We could write it up and give it to whoever big, whatever big. But there are some. So like I said, we saw this 5 years ago. One thing we started at 5 years ago. It's gotten better to the point where I think people, when I say people, industry has seen this, and government agencies are now becoming more open to internship programs that have this kind of systematic process with it.
Okay.
Like plug these college students, even sometimes maybe high school seniors, into this program, and then by the time they graduate, boom, they can go straight to work, right? So I think it's in the works. It's just we saw it and started acting on it a little earlier because as a small business, you see all these opportunities and you start looking at the the labor categories, and entry level 0 to 3 years. Not 0, but 2 to 3 years. That's not entry level.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Well, if that's entry level, what's the one below it?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Unpaid position. Just
right. Yeah.
sit for 2 years, and then you've got your experience, and then we'll start paying.
They will start paying you. It's like it's actually going back like in school again. It's like enrolling in school, and that's interesting. I like that because it's telling the people a step-by-step process of what people can do.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, there's a result at the end. It reminds me of what's that program that they have? They have it for veterans that are leaving that want to get jobs.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we participate. We spoke at that before. But they go to that program. It's like a transition.
Yes.
A TAP. I think transition.
I have the name of it.
Something, but.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, they're supposed to hold the green suitor's hand through that transition.
Yes.
And then help them.
Skill Bridge.
Oh, Skill Bridge. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I'm thinking about Skill Bridge. It's almost like Skill Bridge in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like a Skill Bridge, but expanded to people that are non-veterans. So again, I love this. I like these because it's tactical. So someone coming out. So that's one path. Drive, determination, and delivering. And it was interesting. Let me ask you a question because I've been reading this book lately and I've been sharing this methodology, and it says that You have to have the courage and a commitment to succeed, but not necessarily the capabilities or the confidence.
So
So you
I
said
would,
drive, determination, delivering, right? That's courage and commitment,
yeah, I would wholly 100% agree with that. So from a
right?
capability, like I said, you don't, in my humble opinion, it's who you know. It basically just it's reputation and your connections and if they like you.
Right.
And so that's not really a capability, right?
Oh,
I mean, and the courage to go and ask those people maybe
right.
for help
Like,
or
give me a
just
shot. Give me a
step,
chance.
stepping out on your own and just doing it. Um, yeah, so the capability, and that's why I tell people, and I've helped other people start services companies,
Mhm.
right? And so if you want, I mean, I will share my little maybe my steps on how to do that. But I got bored. I hate to say the B word, but I got bored probably 5 or 6 years into HTML solutions. And when I say bored, um, it's just you'll see a lot of cycles, and that cycle that we were in, we were doing a lot of sub work, and we were just teaming on teams, and everything was kind of going nicely, fluidly, nothing crazy. And so there wasn't a lot for me to do other than go to conferences, meet people, try to get us more work. So I was like, well, maybe, and I love Shark Tank. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll see if anyone else is interested in starting companies. And so they were, and so I tested a few of them, and some of those have been successful, and others, I've learned from those, those what not to do. But basically, if you find somebody that has those, 3 Ds, or what you're talking about, courage, and what was the other one? Courage and
Commitment.
commitment, and they're passionate about, succeeding, that's a great CEO in the making, right? That CEO or that entrepreneur might not know, what accountant to get, or whether they should make the company an LLC or an S corp, or what bank to use. But those are all pieces of the equation of creating a solid entity that then has a platform to jump to success, right? What I go and do is, I find that individual, and there's a certain steps and questions I ask him or her. And then, for a certain percent of, I guess, equity, I pay for those, for, all that upfront costs. So for instance, the lawyer fees to see if it should be an LLC or an S corporation, what bank to use that was going to make sure and understand that you're a small business and you don't have any work right now,
Right.
but they understand that. And then what CPA firm is going to also that you can grow with and make sure that all your accounting and everything's done by the book, because being a Govcon, you have all that, DCMA, I believe, all that, or DCCA, the accounting, all the
DCA. Yep.
regulation,
Yep.
DCA, that all the accounting stuff, has to be done correctly, the T's crossed and the I's dotted. And then the other piece is getting their name to where their name, but also, the URL, their name, their LinkedIn site, everything to where if someone was to research his or her entity, it would look like a real legitimate,
Right.
wow, company, and then the trade show piece, making sure that at a minimum you have a couple pop-ups, a tablecloth, some capabilities, everything that maybe someone would have difficulty, or would think that, man, that barrier to entry, I just don't know how to do it. That's cookie, man, and so, but the key is for that, for say, like my return on investment for putting, 10 to 15K of assets plus my time, which is invaluable, right? You got to make sure you have that right person that has that drive, right? So the successful entities that I've done that with, those the CEO, the leader, and then the other ones that maybe have not done as well, maybe they get a different full-time job, or maybe life happens, right? And so it's a great, nice idea for them, but they don't have those 3Ds, or maybe they don't have the courage and the I can't remember the second one you said.
Commitment.
Yeah, boom, the commitment.
Right? Because the commitment goes to resiliency,
Yeah,
right? It goes to your commitment is like determination,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. You
So,
didn't share me. What's the book you're reading? What is
it's called 10X is easier than 2X by Dan Green.
10X?
Easier
Okay,
than 2X.
easier than 2X. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's funny because what it says, how world-class performance do operate. And so the idea is Dan Sullivan is the author. And so he's trained thousands of world-class companies And what the premise of the book says is, and I've been sharing this with my leadership team, and it's been profound for them as well, is that if you're trying to grow incrementally, 20%, 10%, there's a plethora of ways that you can do that. If you're trying to grow 10x, there's only one or two ways.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of room for shiny object syndrome. There's like when you sit down and you talk about the 20%, there's really only a couple of ways that you can do that. And he says what happens is this becomes easier because everything that you're doing, all your focus is just on getting to that result. And so a lot of times we're all thinking about incremental growth, right? Okay, you have 60 people. How do we grow, to 70 people? How do we go to 80 people, right? So there's a bunch of ways you could do that. We could go into another agency. We could get another IDIQ. We could get another subcontract. But if you said, okay, I want to go from 60 people to 600 people.
There you go. Yeah.
There ain't, you can't do all this other stuff. Listen, there's one or two ways you can go from 60 to 600. That's it, right? And so if we sit down and we talk about, okay, how do we go to 600 people? Well, guess what, Jonathan? Maybe, okay, acquisition, right? Okay, that's like, okay, outside of that, then it's like, all right, well, we look at all these other scenarios. Well, none of us will get us to 600. So you really narrow down your focus to one or two activities, and then you go all in on those activities, and that's all you focus on.
Yeah, I'll have to get that book, man.
And so, it was such a great read. I went through it in 4 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I will say this: I enjoyed chapters 1 and 2, 6 and 7. I didn't really care for 4 and 5. But wait, one of my leadership team members, who's very like spiritual foundation, who was she enjoyed 4 and 5 because a lot of times, and I have this saying that I've been saying publicly, which is poverty is not righteous. And I think a lot of people who come from these we all have these religious foundations, we seem to think that somehow we need to be stuck in poverty because we're closer to God and like we're closer, to the higher power. And so I'm constantly fighting that battle saying, hey, there's no righteousness in being poor, right? And so we don't strive for success. And so that book addresses those issues in chapters 4 and 5, which I did not need to hear personally, but it was great for some of my leadership members to hear that, because when I say, and think about this, Jonathan, when you tell somebody, okay, I want to go help people. Jonathan, wow, great guy, right? If you say you want to be a billionaire, they question your motives. Exactly. Jonathan, who are you? What have you become? Like, where's your heart now? Think about that. We subliminal, that's our subconscious mind takes us to that as if they're not one and the same.
Yeah.
And so we've all been programmed to believe that, okay, if we say we want to help people, you get a pat on the back, Jonathan, you're a great guy, you're a hero. But if we say you want to go out and you want to build $1 billion company, then they question, hey, Jonathan, what's been going on with you lately? Are you okay? How you feel? Like, I feel fine. But do you know that to build $1 billion company, you have to serve tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people? No one has $1 billion company not serving hundreds of thousands of people. Like that's it. Now they're trying to change that with AI, right? Sam.gov wants to be the first $1 billion company that has one employee, but but previously, right? The Coca-Colas and the Heinz ketchups of the world, these are all things that we have in our homes. Walmart are things that are household names. Amazon, we probably have boxes in right now from Amazon outside your door. So they've made it convenient, easier for us. They've given us tools. Like, we don't have to use Uber Eats, but it sure is convenient when you're sitting at your office and you don't have to drive down to Chick-fil-A and order your sandwich. They bring it to your door.
Yeah.
So it created jobs for people who wanted jobs that didn't have all the prerequisites. And then it made it convenient for us who could afford it. And then it sells more for the restaurant. So it became a public benefit. So when some of these people when they're building these brands, they're not thinking about how do I get rich? How do I they're like, okay, how do I serve hundreds of thousands of people, millions of customers? And so that's typically they go hand in hand. But mentally, when you say it out loud, people seem to it like drives a stake in them some kind of way.
Get judgy.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh man, 100%. Even when you were saying, Jonathan, you're gonna go help people, I was like, oh, and then you're like, Jonathan, you want to be a billionaire? I'm like, oh wow, I can definitely. They're shockingly two different emotional states that kick off initially in my brain.
And so to the people listening,
Yeah.
try it. Take it back to your sister that likes to make babies.
I hope she'll never hears this.
You said it a couple times. I have.
Yeah. No, but it is true though. I mean, the truth is reality. She does. So I mean,
well, I will say I don't know your sister, but I have read statistically that we are having a shortage of children being born in the United States.
She's doing her job then.
So we want to thank your sister.
That's right.
Because she's making up. Because if you look statistically, right, and again, I listen to a lot of podcasts. It used to be, and I don't know the numbers, but it was very common to have 4 kids, and like the average, like 70% of women had 4 more kids. Then it went down to like 50% and then 30%. And so I think we're now in the 20 percentile of people that have 4 more kids. And then when you get to like 1 or more, we're still like 50 percentile.
Yeah. Well, she's got 5, so
she's making up for like 3 women right now. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Go
stop. Do not stop. And you got a lot of nieces and nephews that you can spoil.
That's true. I can spoil them. That's right.
And you don't have to live with them. You can go in there and Uncle Jonathan's here. We're going to take you out and swing you. Throw you over, just hang them over that's what I think about uncles, right? You go to Disney World, you hang them over the bridge, over the pond, and they scream and kick, and
get them on a sugar high and give them back to their mom.
There you go, right? So, but no, I like that, But that's I say these things because I'm asking people, do you think you need the capabilities to be able to start, right? And you're like, no, I never had the capabilities, right? You did it, and you made it work, and you figured it out.
Yeah.
But so many of us are afraid that we don't have the capabilities.
Yeah. Well, here, Marvin Carroll, owner of TechMasters, right? He must be well up into his 70s now, but about maybe 9 years ago, he did 20 years with the government, then started TechMasters, an amazing company here in Huntsville. Yeah, Dr. Marvin Carroll. But I was at one of his, and he always gave back to small business freely. He would have a session and invite anyone who wanted to come. And I remember him, I was in the back, and I remember the thing that I took from his hour of talk was always say yes. Always say yes. And then figure out how to deliver. Right. So he's like, always say yes, and then go figure out how to deliver. Right. And so but I mean, he did 20 years in the government, and then he's a successful business owner. So he must know what he's talking about, right? I mean, and so I took that to heart. And when the first couple of jobs that we got, whether it was pen testing or some RMF accreditation or audits and assessments, I would always say yes to those opportunities, no matter if I didn't know really how to really deliver. Right. But then when I said yes, I would immediately have that, tool bag or toolbox where I would go in and start finding people on LinkedIn that could deliver, and then I'd do a contract with them, a 1099 agreement or something, and then they would deliver, give me the product, and then I would give it to. And this was a lot of commercial work, right? Well, when you do anything to try to keep the lights on to continue you toward the goal of actually maybe getting a contract someday with the government, but we always said yes. And even now, when there's something that maybe is not 100% in our skill set, I will still say yes, because we can figure a solution out. We can figure the solution out. We can deliver a good solution. And if we can't do it organically within the company, well, by goodness, I will go and I'll find another company that has that capability, and we'll bring them on the team. So I mean, when your passion is focused on protecting the warfighter, protecting the country, you will do everything it takes to find that solution. And so that's just my belief system, I guess, when it comes to doing the work that we're in. Govcon, government contracting, and specifically Department of Defense contracting. Your whole capability set is you're providing, whether it's a product or services, to defend our country. Mm-hmm. And so, that is, if you decide to go into this business, and specifically for the DoD, that's your mission statement. I mean, it's got to be close to having some of those capabilities on why you're doing what you're doing, right? For whatever agency you're supporting. If it's not DoD and it's Department of Energy or something like that, well, maybe you care about the environment, and you want to make sure that we're not shooting out so much carbon, whatever the hell it is that they're trading now, whatever. But mine is Department of Defense, and there's a couple of agencies that also have that same mission as the Department of Defense, and so we play very well in that arena. And when it's not DoD and it's outside that area and it's a commercial company, it is making sure that their stuff or their crown jewels or their proprietary information is protected so that it doesn't leave that entity that is created that and goes to some adversarial company or adversarial state that then can use that for whatever it is they want to use it for from a negative perspective.
What are you seeing some of the areas where companies have made some missteps in this process?
The process of their
doing business with Govcon, right? We're talking about how to get more small businesses into this business. And I want to let them know about some of the challenges that other people have faced so that they can be more cognizant of it. They can be aware, they can prepare.
Right.
Want them to succeed.
So I think from a success perspective, just having the mindset, and we've already talked about, the drive, the determination, the delivery, the courage, because the reality of getting a contract from the government is a 3 to 5 year process. And so, we didn't have our first, I guess, government work for probably 4 or 5 years, maybe, maybe longer than that. So when we started, we made through the LinkedIn connections that I made to other companies, and the friends that I started to make at those companies, we started getting these side jobs, these little pieces, assessment here and assessment here. And so we were lucky enough to start doing that, and it helped us sustain the company until we actually did get, a contract with the government. Now it took us 8 years to get our first prime contract. So, I mean, but maybe 3 to 4 years before we started subbing on government work to other prime contracts. So hurdles, I mean, man, so I love all my former business partners and some still current business partners, but the old saying is true. Might want to not go into business with friends, maybe, and it is just, I'm just leave it at that. Some other hurdles, make sure that you have a damn good lawyer. And here's the reason. Our first job that we got, the big one, we only had enough people to have 3 W-2 employees. So we had a 1099 another person to fill that LOE. We get this guy. I'll just say Maximus his name. I won't say his last name. We won the lawsuit, by the way. But anyways, we get him to cover down. He was on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn connection, said he had his own cybersecurity firm, which he did, but he didn't know nothing. He knew. Anyways, we're doing the assessments. We're going. Well, then the end customer decides that they're done, and so they terminate the contract. We were like the 3rd tier sub, so we're not even talking to the customer, right? So,
right.
so
what's going on here?
The 2nd tier sub says, and we're about halfway done, and so we had contracted with Max 500 hours, and he'd done about 300. He's like, "Oh, cool, man, no worries, done. Okay." And about 3 months go by, and I get a thing from a lawyer in Michigan for $100,000 lawsuit. And I called Max. I was like, "Max, what's doing?" He's like, "Man, it's just business, man. Just cost of doing business, dude. Like, I bought a new suit. I bought a car. I bought a house because, I got that contract with you guys." And so, I'm like, "Okay, all right." And like the total, the total amount of work.
Wrap up, baby.
But it was like $35,000. It didn't justify buying a car and a house and all this. So anyways, we fought it, but we had a good lawyer already, Maynard Nexon here in Huntsville at that time, Maynard Cooper and Gale. And he was like, "This is totally frivolous lawsuit." He's like, "I bet he does this to all of his clients." He's like, "Do you want to fight it?" And then he's like, "Jonathan, if you fight this, it's going to cost you probably $30,000. And I'm like, "I would rather spend every red cent that we have in our bank," which wasn't much.
Right. Sure. At the time, yeah.
On beating this guy than paying him a dime.
Right.
And so we fought it, and they had to get legal representation up in Detroit. We won up there, and then we countersued down here for the costs because he did come to Alabama for some training, and he didn't show, and we won. We won the case. Of course, then he fled. He's in California, and now he's somewhere. We'll never get a cent of it, right? But I mean, but have a great lawyer, and then have a good CPA firm, right? That understands that you might have difficulties, but just throughout the whole process, having that base structure is imperative to success, because then you don't have to worry about a lot of the back office stuff. You can focus on growing your business and making those connections with those other CEOs and other business owners that can help you down the road.
8 years for your first prime contract.
Yeah. It's not. I mean,
you've been in business, you said 10.
10. Yeah, 10 years. Yeah.
So prior to that, you said you were doing commercial work and you were doing sub work. Let me ask you a question. I just interviewed another small business IT firm yesterday. How long were you billable for?
Great question. So I was working at another entity while we started H2L, and then there's always a crossroads with every small business, and the crossroads is, when are you going to jump in the fire and be 100% committed to your baby and do it full time? And that's really the only way it's going to grow. And so we got that contract, the one that Max was on, actually. We got that contract, and I decided to jump over and execute that. And so we had 3 months of billable work. Mm-hmm. And I reduced my salary from, I thought I was making 90K. I reduced it to 50K. No benefit, no insurance, right? So just jumped over, and 3 months of solid work. After that, I don't know what the hell I was going to do. So, but by me jumping over and doing that billable work, 3 months, we were able to get some more work and everything like that. But that really, I was only billable for about 3 months. We were lucky enough that my salary was so low that it really wasn't putting a very detrimental cost on the company from an overhead perspective. So I went in and did some assessments and audits here and there, but primarily I was not billable for very long. So there was one time that they decided, we sat down, looked at the books, and we're like, you know what, we'd be a lot more cost efficient if you would join. This is when we started subbing. You go out, since I had all the credentials from a cyber perspective, go out and you'll be another LOE on this subcontract. And I did, and man, I couldn't lie. I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't sit behind the desk and jam out, spreadsheets. People were calling me about business meetings. I'd go in the hallway, go downstairs, and I just couldn't do it. Some people, that's how they operate, and they like that, and they like being in the weeds, but then in not all cases, but I think in some cases they struggle at actually growing exponentially, because if they haven't hired someone to do that for them, they're in the weeds. There's only so much that they can do from a growth perspective if they're actually executing that work.
What's LOE?
Level of effort, like a person. But when you subcontract,
FTE?
FTE, yeah, FTE, same thing, yeah, FTE.
We'll make sure everybody's following.
Yeah. So, but yeah, not very long. Only a couple months. That's just
not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I mean, we'd obviously be more profitable if I had been working direct bill. But I don't think that we would have been able to make as many connections and as many capability briefs and as many teaming opportunities if I had been taken off of that trajectory and put on a direct bill trajectory for short-term gains versus the long-term gains.
Do you think that that's still a strategy that works for you today in growing your business?
100%. Yeah. 100%. Like I said, we were lucky that we had a lot of these. I mean, we did over 400 companies, 400 companies, individual audits and assessments. And each one of those ranged from 10 to 15K to 60 to 120K. And so probably in 2015 and 2016, we were doing 60 of those a year. And so we got into really, that's where our commercial section is still alive and doing well with the company, because we kind of, even though we jumped into Govcon and we came out of Govcon, there was no Govcon work that we could, well, we'd have a facilities clearance. But to do these assessments for these other defense industrial based, business to business kind of assessments, you didn't have to have a clearance. You had to have, in some cases, a personal clearance, which we all had, but you didn't have to have a facilities clearance. And so we couldn't even really sub on any government work until we had a facilities clearance. And so that's another reason why it's so important. If a key to success to immediately start doing GovCon work and subbing is getting that facilities clearance. So if you have a company that really likes you just ask them about it. Hey, Mr. Smith, I know you want us and you think that we're going to be very successful. We'd even be more successful if you added us as a subcontractor on this IDIQ right here. You know, like,
Yeah.
and the courage, like you gotta say, the courage to ask the question, because the worst thing they'll say is no.
Where'd you develop that courage?
The will to survive. I don't know, man.
Hey, listen, that's a great. I promise you, that's a great answer.
You know, the I guess it's the, you know, the courage not to fail and not to give up on creating a ecosystem where I have freedom, right?
Mm.
And so all the hard work that you know, my employees and myself and everyone put into the company, you know, I can go and if my kids have a play and it's at 2 o'clock or something, I can go and attend that, right? Or if they want me to go on a field trip, God forbid, that I can go, you know, on that field trip and support them there. So that freedom is invaluable, and I wouldn't give it up, you know, for anything. But the courage, you know, it takes a lot of hard work and commitment to sometimes reap the benefits of that. And so that hard work and determination, when I first started the company, it divorces, you know. So I mean, like, people not thinking there was a good idea to do it. You know, getting emails from people on the other side saying you're going to fail. You know, I had my best friend did it, and he failed. You know, and so all these, you know, negative things kind of drove me to succeed no matter what. That's kind of where my courage came from that perspective. But I mean, of course, the military training, you know, the infantry schools, the ranger school, I mean, all those things from a military perspective helped with that drive of success and the not fail kind of attitude as well.
I appreciate that. We're gonna wrap up, my man. I appreciate you and your time today. Anything else you have for small businesses that has helped you along your journey that you want to share?
That have helped us. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for instance, you know, if you have a capability that another entity doesn't have a capability, for instance, cybersecurity, not every company does cyber, or maybe not every company does it well. But you know, during that big DFAR 712 push, Apogee Engineering helped us get our secret facilities clearance. But as a cyber company, a lot of those opportunities have a top secret facility clearance requirement. And so there's another company that we said, you know, they had that capability. They had a top secret facilities clearance, and you know, we said we will go in and do your assessment, no cost to you. Could you help us with a facilities clearance? And they said absolutely. So they did the same thing that Apogee Engineering did, except the bartering system as we went in there and helped them get their networks to standard, to code, right? And then they added us to a contract that had that TS facility clearance requirement, and we got assessed with a TS facilities clearance. So, you know, when you have certain skill sets that not every other company has, and they're of value, don't feel afraid or they'll have the lack of courage to offer that skill set up in lieu of something that you might need to be successful as a small business. All right. And then, you know, I would say network. LinkedIn is probably you have access. Pay the $500, you know, a year for the gold or platinum level, whatever it is. And if you're a military service member or military spouse, I think you get a year free for LinkedIn. I'm not sure, but I think that's the case.
Chrissy brought that up when she was on our show.
Oh, did she? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
she
Then
did.
she would know. That's the case then.
Chrissy brought it up. Yes.
She's done the research.
I was the first time I heard it when she brought it up.
Yeah, well, LinkedIn's probably like, don't spread that out. But
Wow, they won.
but anyway, that capability alone. I mean, we got invited to the Pentagon because I was messaging the Undersecretary of Defense in 2015 because he was saying, Undersecretary of Defense for the Army, where he was like, we're not meeting our hub zone goals. And I said, I kept messaging like every month, sir, we're a hub zone certified company. However, we don't have a facility clearance, so we cannot do any work for you. And I had messaged him so much that I got a call from, I think it was Dr. Galvin. I can't remember his first name, but he was the executive director for the Small Business Association. And he called me, or his secretary called me, and she was like, well, the Honorable Frank Kendall emailed us and wants us to have a meeting with you to see how we can help you with us. So I went up to the Pentagon, man. I was like, yeah, small business, second year in creation, getting invited to the Pentagon. But I mean, the moral of the story is, you know, with that platform, you have accessibility to people that under normal circumstances would not even know that you exist.
Right.
Right. And so, use that tool and don't be afraid to reach out to them. And my strategy was always to offer them something first, never ask for anything. And then that always, for at least my story, was successful.
I like it.
So
In my digging, I found an article that says Jonathan Hart announces candidacy for State Senate District 7. I saved it for the last thing. I said, I wanted the people to stay on for the small business. Look at your faces already.
It took a lot of courage, ton of courage. So during my second marriage,
there's some other words, adjectives you like to use that as well besides courage.
It was so. I've always been interested in politics, and the way to change things is through the legislative process, and that the Democratic Party in the state of Alabama is broken, and so I decided to jump on and run as a Democrat in a red state. And I'm probably purple, and my whole campaign, campaign slogan was "Let's paint Huntsville purple." Why be red? Why be blue? When you mix those colors together, it's purple. Let's make the right decisions for all people, and we can do that. Let's stop alienating the country and alienating everyone. So I was more of like a blue dog Democrat, like fiscally conservative with our money. Right? Let's not give it away, but socially, liberal. A woman's right is a woman's right. Right? Who am I to determine what she or shouldn't do or do to her body? So I guess kind of went down. But me, from the Democrat Party, I joined the race, and then two ladies joined, who were who had actual discrimination that they grew up in. Right. And
Alabama. Oof.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so I felt like I'm a white guy running against two African-American females. Bro, I'm not even good at, I have not been discriminated against, but they lived it. Yeah. But not just being, a female, but being an African-American female in those communities. And so I backed off. I still got 900 votes after I even stopped. But the whole strategy.
I think listen. I mean, I know that people got discriminated against, but that doesn't make them necessarily winners. But I understand your point. I'm not here to judge either way. I mean, you did take a leap beyond what I've done. So I mean, I do have it on my list, though. I do have it on my list.
No, you should. I mean, like it is even at the state level, and this was a state level ran, district Senate seat. It's crazy what your eyes will be opened up to from a political perspective. It is just mind blowing. I can only imagine at a state level or a congressional level how it is just mind blowing. But Erin McCulley, my second ex-wife, is the one who pushed me to run for that. And she helped a lot, and she did a great job. And I take life is precious. And instead of focusing on negative aspects of it, I try to always pick the good things out of every experience that I have been blessed with. And so, she helped with that, and she encouraged me to run. And it was a lot of interesting, insightful things that I learned in that process. And I might do it again down the road. Don't know what side. I don't think I'd be a Democrat. I don't think I'd be a Republican. In the state of Alabama, if you want to run, I think this is still the case, as a third party, you have to get 1,000 signature votes before the primary or whatever. So if some of these skeletons in my closet the flesh needs to continue to rot off the bones, but once that happens, I might run again, and we'll see how that turns out as an independent.
I would say you could do that, but typically independents don't win, so you have to pick a side. So what people have done, you just have to pick a side, and I don't know. And then I've seen people pick sides and then switch sides after they won, right? Because maybe you can't win on one side based on where you're located. So you pick the opposite side where you think you have a chance to win, and then you switch sides, so to speak. So I've seen people do that.
Or you just stay on that side and
then advocate for the other piece, right? Which probably is actually better.
Yeah, become a sounding board.
Which is probably better.
Yeah.
Because anything that I've seen, I'm more of a stoic, says that you should be able to argue both sides of any argument. So regardless of like even with your lawsuit, we could say, okay, well, the guy didn't get his 200 hours. Well, maybe it wasn't in the contract. I don't know, right? And so I've been sued because someone didn't pay me. And if luckily the people who sued me, their attorney was smart enough to say, oh, you're right. Okay, send me your documents where you want paid. I'm going to skip you and go straight to them. And so they sued them and got the money, which I could not recover because I didn't have the money to pay the lawyers. So the sub to me, which was a big firm, sued the people above me and got paid the money that I was owed.
Oh, nice.
It was, hey, I love it. So one of my things that I tell people is even when things seem bad, they can turn out to be your best thing that happened to you. And so I continue to have those stories. I was trying to go to a conference. We didn't have tickets. They said all the tickets were sold out to non-members. I reached out to a podcast guest. He says, yes, I'm friends with the president of my local chapter. He emailed DC. So now if I had just bought the tickets online, Jonathan, nobody would know my name. But because they were no longer available, now the president of the local chapter knows me. The people in DC knows me, that I know the president. So I went from no one to someone because of what would have been deemed in most people's eyes a mistake.
Yep.
So, but listen, brother, I appreciate you, man. I look forward to seeing you. When we get, hey, if we work out, if you can find, I'm going to put this on your heart because you said for me to come to Alabama, which I have no problem coming to Huntsville. If you can find some of these events that we're looking for someone to do some co-branding, co-partnering, then that'd be a great way for us to come in and do what we do best and not have to come in and fully set up and arrange everything. You know how, like, more of a, we bring what we bring to the table. They have the customers. We bring all the new blood, the young people, the technology, the innovative folks that are, and we make them feel comfortable. So that seems like a strategy that's more doable, right? Than us just launching conferences after conference all over the place. That's hard to break into and to scale and then, frankly, to get funded, right? We're having all the resources. So just
I'll accept that. I'll accept that challenge.
All right. Listen, how do you want people to reach you?
They can email me.
Okay.
Jonathan.
Yep.
You can put it on here, or
Yep.
it's Jonathan.hart@hlsolutions.com, or
All right.
hit me on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
You got 30,000 people on LinkedIn, man. You're killing it. You're crushing it. Well, we'll put all the notes for this interview, everything that you sent us on our socials to our goals. We'll put that in there. And then the people that you thought about, connect us, please. And we want more great people sharing their stories. So I appreciate you, man. See you, brother. Be good. Have a nice one.